All right, welcome everybody. Wall Street, Jesus here. Saying Lucci supposed to be here, but he's not right here at the moment. Maybe he'll pop in along the way. Basically, a market recap. We just touched base early on in the week. I'll give you an idea of what we're seeing in the steam room in regards to flow, sentiment, all the things we follow. And, interesting day today. Obviously, big sell off. Kind of what we've been seeing here. Everybody got excited yesterday. And listen, yesterday was a huge up day. It was a huge green day. But it kind of becomes a waste when you're not looking to put money to work in those type of days. And I don't think those of you who've been coming on these webinars and the Saturday webinar with myself, the Saturday sweep series, we've been talking about throughout this whole correction. Okay, there's no other label you have to put on this. Tariffs, interest rates, now this data breach, all this nonsense day after day that they're going to point the finger at. Okay, when you're in correction mode, they find something to blame it on. Okay, it's just the environment we're in right now. All right, people look for any excuse to sell. And there's logical reasons behind it. We're coming off a gangbuster year, basically a melt up into January. In a market, you're supposed to have corrections. And it felt like this bull market was going to go on without any corrections, in the foreseeable future. And that's just, that's not realistic. All right. So me personally, and I stress it to any of you guys who are new trading out there, don't get caught up in the noise out there. Nobody can figure out what the exact reasons are for the selling, okay? Nobody necessarily can figure out when this comes to an end, the exact bottom. So try not to get too wrapped up into all that nonsense, all right? But we are in a correction. You don't need to be a technician to see that, right? It's pretty obvious on the screen here. And one thing that I've learned throughout my career is when you're in this type of environment, the worst thing you can do, unlike last year, the worst thing you can do is chase rallies. Okay? Put it even more simple than that. You have to try to avoid chasing green, period. Okay? You got to try to avoid chasing green. If you're day trading, that applies on an intraday level, and even more so if you're swing trading. Okay, you can't buy these highs up here and think you're going to get away with it like you did last year. All right, so this is the stuff, throughout this environment, you got to work on, it's got to become almost a habit form. You got to get used to it. It's not easy. It took me a while for myself, and honestly, it's the best thing I ever done, but it took me a while to get myself out of the mode where green bothered me not being involved in that FOMO feeling. Okay. And I miss opportunities and rallies every day, guys. And it gets annoying, but I'm just, I worked on it religiously to the point where I get excited when I see flow into red, because that's where I want to be a buyer. All right. So, simply put, one thing you can do in this environment, and you'll be better off than you were prior, is not chase. Think of chase as the devil, okay? And what you're going to see happen, you're going to see these large shifts in sentiment. You're going to see these wide ranges. Like, look at today. Yesterday we had one of the biggest up days we've seen in a long time. And then, today we give a good chunk of it back. And this is actually normal trading in a correction. Yeah, it's normal, okay? It may not be signs of a healthy market per se, but the volatility is normal in a correction. All right, so a couple things we like to look at in the room. One, the flow is a big gauge for us. That's the number one, the most important thing we pay attention to is the flow. Okay, and what we've been seeing there primarily, and you guys probably have heard me talk about this ad nauseum repeatedly, but the quality behind the order flow is just not there. It hasn't been there. It hasn't been there, honestly, since this push higher. Okay, we saw some real nice action come into this low, all right, throughout this push higher, And then again into this low. We saw them come after tech and a lot of different things into these lows here aggressively. But then something changed, it seemed like right around this gap up, where we just saw, rolling of those big tech names that went parabolic, and they never rotated. That's another thing. Think about this. Okay, you talk about a different environment. The last time that I can remember where we haven't seen that rotation that's held up this market for so long. Okay, you guys remember it. They would go into tech. Tech would get a bit extended. Both price and sentiment would get a bit extended there. And they would go into biotech or the financials, right? Then they would start to move. Then they take some money. They would go into some infrastructure names, Caterpillar, Deere. They constantly were moving money around. So even though the financials needed to breathe a little bit, they would, there would be some buying in tech. When tech needed to breathe, they'd be buying biotech and some other stuff. So that's not here right now. And that's kind of what we were hoping for. We would see out of the flow here, okay? When all these names, the Microns, the CRMs, the NTNXs, all these things, look at these moves. Okay, when you see this screams rotation. Otherwise, there's big trouble ahead. These things aren't going to continue like this for too much longer. The longer they go, the bigger the drop. Okay, so what you want to see is money start to take profit in these things, let these things breathe, and let them put some money to work elsewhere. But we weren't seeing it. Okay, and as time went on, as each and every day passed that we weren't seeing that rotation, you guys heard me say how the put buying I try not to get too wrapped up into, right? Because people look to protect so many different ways. You know what I mean? Hedging in bull markets. The most bullish player out there can protect a long position and he's bullish. But what speaks volume to me is the call buying. And when they're not buying, I get a bit concerned. All right. So hence now we see the reason why they haven't put any money to work. Okay. Now, the problem is we're still not seeing that buying. Okay. We had a big update yesterday, and you could ask anybody in the room. There was bull flow out there. Okay. There's always going to be bullish activity on a day like this. You're going to have, these machines and algos firing SPY sweeps continuously, to create squeezes. You're going to get people who are caught short sweep call side because they're caught. So you're always going to see that bullish activity. But we weren't seeing that quality order flow. Like, for example, yesterday, there were two names, that's it, okay, that caught decent action that was swing-worthy in a sense. All right, and that was Dow DuPont and CCL. That was the only two names yesterday that the action was worth a shit. Excuse my French. Okay, that's in a big up day. And prior to that, into the selling, the same thing. No quality. Again, you can find call buyers every day, any day. There's call buyers, put buyers, galore. But we're looking for that quality activity to come in, not just that selective activity. And I guess that's the best way to explain it. It's been really extremely selective. Extremely selective. All right. So that's the one thing that's got me and a lot of people who pay attention closely to the aggressive activity out there a little bit concerned. Now, the good news is that can change snap of a finger. Snap of a finger. Okay. You remember that Friday afternoon we were talking about, again, the Micron missiles, the Tesla missile, and everything else that came after it. Microsoft, Intel, good looking action, STZ, there was a Win. There was a good amount of names catching real quality action. That just kind of snuck up on you in a sense. But if you remember, slowly they were starting to put money to work, right? Win started to catch activity selectively before that barrage of action. So we can see that, tomorrow we can walk in, there could be some weakness, and we could see that start to develop. That's the good news. The bad news is it's been MIA for quite a bit here. All right. And, it's just, to us, it expresses that these guys really don't have much confidence out there. All right. Because what we're paying attention to, what we look at every day, we're looking at how the smart money is aggressively speculating, right, in the options market. So if they're not aggressively looking to speculate on the long side, it tells you they really don't have much confidence out there. So that's what the flow has been showing us. And on top of that, when we get days like this, all of a sudden, we see this happen. And this is not out of the ordinary, okay? Because you're going to have players scrambling for protection and stuff like that. But there's some size behind these things. We're seeing SPY sweepers out there. For example, yesterday, okay, it set up a nice squeeze for a lot of us, but the SPY sweepers we were seeing yesterday were cheap spec type action. You know what I mean? They were $40,000, $50,000 sweepers coming in. Most likely they were machine related algo sweeps coming in. Okay. And that was the call activity. And then today, when we see the flow turn, you're talking about $800,000 sweeps, $600,000 sweeps. They're laying some wood. Google caught a monstrosity of a put bet. So, that's concern, right? Especially that there's no call buying out there. But I want to stress for us, and as ridiculous as this may sound, tomorrow morning, if we gap lower and there's fear out there, and all of a sudden these guys come in and this same action that's on here right now is just green instead of red, basically you can forget all of that protection that came in because it means nothing, especially over the extreme short term. So that's why I try not to get too wrapped up into the put buying, because the call buying will guide me regardless. All right. But at the same token, don't get me wrong. If you're a day trader, and a lot of people in the room who like to trade both sides, Lucci in particular, this is their time, right? Times where I'm sitting on my hands waiting for some call sweeper activity to come in. Lucci and the gang, they're taking on a fistful of puts and making a quick score to the downside. The problem is, if you're trying to swing the put side, it's difficult. It's difficult. Look at today, okay? If you, let's say looking to get short, all right, yesterday's rally was probably the perfect time, right? You had extreme bearish sentiment out there. It got squeezed to death, relieved all that sentiment. Look at the put to call today, by the way. And this is just the volume-based put to call, okay? You had this spike, and then all of a sudden, the rally, look what it did. Just basically washed out all that extreme put buying, all that extreme bearishness. So if you were looking to get short or make a play on the short side, that was probably the time to start looking. And look at how difficult it was. This market was up early on. We gapped up again, right? You had everybody thinking we were going to rally at least for a couple days out of this. If you were short, you're getting stopped out, and then the bottom falls out. You want to pull your hair out of your head. So it's a lot easier said than done when you're swinging on the downside. You really got to close your eyes, hold your nose type of thing, and really make sure you have your risk management down to a science. Okay, for me, I never got involved in that because it wasn't worth it for me. You know what I mean? The thought of me missing out on that potential reversal, that flip of flow, missing out on that wasn't worth it for me to try to make some money on the short side, as silly as that is. Okay, and it keeps me in check. It keeps me disciplined. On days where there's, like this afternoon, I wasn't doing shit. There's people slapping five, making scores on the put side. I think a couple guys made a score on the Apple because some put sweeper activity came in and then started to roll over. lined up perfectly. Yeah, and I'm basically just rooting them on because I'm playing to my strengths and what I feel comfortable with. So, it's really important to know, what you have confidence in, what you feel comfortable with, especially in this environment. You don't have to play everything out there at all times. Okay, there's no reason. All right, so that's basically where we're at. So let me get into sentiment quickly because you guys know I'm a big fan of that in addition to the flow. Okay, so I already explained to you basically what we've been seeing in flow for a while now. A lack of quality order flow out there, a lack of buying, good looking buying. Sentiment, we're seeing those big shifts. Okay, as again, you guys follow me on Twitter. Those of you who are in the room members, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We just went from bullish extreme to bearish extreme. Then yesterday, big update. We didn't get to bullish again, but relieved all that bearishness out there. And, another down morning tomorrow might set this up all over again, for another squeeze. But these are trades. And if you're not nimble enough, especially when there's that lack of quality order flow out there, if you can't be nimble, it's a perfect time to sit on your hands and wait for this to end. There's nothing wrong with that. If you are an active trader, there's some fun out there, especially, like I said, especially if you can, you can play both sides and you know what you're doing there. All right, so right now, I'm obviously going to, after this webinar into the night, going to look at where we are sentiment-wise. The one thing I can tell you is this put the call really didn't come in and come back enough. You could see here, right? No extreme there. I'm going to look at my other stuff, my more reliable stuff that I look at religiously and see where we are there going into the morning. I can tell you from what I'm seeing into the close, that extreme is not there yet. Maybe with a little further selling tomorrow, we will see that. All right. As far as action today, because I know you guys are going to ask me about that on the call side. Okay, I got to grasp at a couple straws here, but SFM. Oh, I'm typing into the chat window. You had some January call activity here. It's interesting because, it's not a FANG name, not a high-flying tech name. I think that has to be avoided as far as taking positions. If sentiment lines up, you get some flow for that quick snapback trade. Obviously, anything fits the bill. But, if you're looking for where the money might rotate into and may outperform, you got to start looking elsewhere outside of that spot, outside of tech and those high beta places. Okay, there's a lot of selling there, and SFM would fit that bill. Okay, caught some January activity. So this is a name. The way I would like to play it is put it on a watch list and let them come after it again. They haven't been doing it, but let them come after it again. They come in tomorrow into some weakness and they hit up some May calls aggressively. Then it might be worth a look. All right, so that caught some action today. Another interesting name is this AXTA. That actually closed green today. Had a small sweep yesterday, April's. Today, there wasn't much size as far as dollar amount, but they were pretty aggressive in the buying there. I think they initially paid 35 cents on the first sweep of calls. I think they were May. And then maybe an hour or so later, paid up to 80 cents. So that's pretty aggressive, even though it wasn't for a big dollar amount. So again, I think a name worth keeping an eye on. Tomorrow we gap down. You see some weakness. They start to come in again aggressively. You might have a candidate there for a nice move. Okay, like I said, showed some relative strength here today. So that looked good. They came back for a little more of this ETP. I actually bought some of this for a swing today into the weakness. I bought September's. I'm not a big fan of these MLPs. You know what I mean? I was telling guys in the room, I always thought of them as like REITs. You know what I mean? Playing like REITs. But there's been some decent action in this thing. If this was anything else, I would be pretty excited about it. The way they're buying it. Today there was a flush. It looked like off some headline or something, and sweepers came in and gobbled up that weakness, and then faded with everything else. You can see this here. This was the whole sector, by the way. See this wash here? KMI. I think ETE would saw a little bit of flow today too. So it must have been some sort of headline downgrade or something there, and they came into this ETP and swept it up. All right, so that's a good sign. And you pull up a daily here, disgusting. Disgusting. Overdue for a squeeze. September's, I got ample time. Like I said, I didn't take a big position. I could always look to add if I'm interested, but we'll see. I'm trying to stay as patient as possible and wait for the goods. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to wait for the goods because primarily I day trade and I like to swing trade selectively. And it's just there hasn't been much quality out there, so I'm trying to wait it out and wait for the good looking action to come in. So they bought a little bit more of this ETP. I'm trying to think of other stuff that I traded this morning, but it was off some small sweeps, guys. Facebook. You guys probably could ask me about that. There was one of those deep in the money sweepers that I like. Okay. Obviously, he got run over intraday. I don't think he really cares much about that, even though May is not that far out. But you got a lot of noise here, obviously. So you got to take that into account. Maybe you look for further weakness if you're interested. The way I was telling members today, if you were looking for an entry into Facebook, you could use that order as a confirmation. If you weren't interested in Facebook, I don't blame you because there's a lot of the stocks in the news constantly. And you guys know I'm not a big fan of that. All right. But as far as quality order, there was a good looking May sweep. Deep in the money, clean, not tied to stock. It was a sweep. It was a big bet. Yeah, it was one order, Facebook, but yeah, it was a decent looking order. All right, and that's it. That's it. What else? I scalped the little Coles. I think that ended up rolling over. Yeah, rolled over later in the day. Everything seemed to roll over later in the day. There was a small call sweeper in Coles that I basically day traded, but nothing else. Any of you guys, you can rattle off some symbols if you got them. Anybody saw something interesting out there today? Jim is asking, they bought some time on this ETP. Yeah, they played a couple different lines, Jim. There were some Junes out there, but primarily the best activity in that ETP has been in the September strikes. That's where they've been most aggressive. So, and you look at a chart like this, yeah, you might be able to catch a squeeze here shorter term. But if you're looking for any sort of decent size move, this thing looks exhausted to the downside. So if you're looking for any sort of decent size move, you want to have some time there. And listen, Jim, that E word, energy, it's been driving everybody nuts, all of us, off flow, off anything. So, you got to keep that in mind. That's why, nice and easy, I took a little September's just to keep me, guys, honestly, just to keep me more entertained than anything else as I try to wait it out, honestly. As I try to wait it out. Jay Paul saying, I saw on another site, QQQ got, wait, you saw it on another site, QQQ got dumped after that. I don't understand the question, Jay. If you want to word that again, I think you might be missing a word there. GE, yeah. I day traded GE, believe it or not, today, the equity. A couple guys made some quick money on the calls. They were cheap. We were playing just a squeeze there. You know what I mean? But if it was off that Buffett chatter, a couple algo sweepers fired in there, and then the Buffett chatter came out. Berkshire Hathaway buying them or whatever the chatter was. And then all of a sudden the flow exploded. So it was a nice day trade. Anything more than that, yeah, I wouldn't get my hopes up. But I'll be honest with you guys, in the morning, there was some decent movers. The flow wasn't anything spectacular. But I made a little bit of money in the morning trading a couple of these things. The afternoon, there was just nothing around. Michael saying the reason I don't trust the Facebook missiles because in the money put sweeps last week were pretty big too. Yeah, Mike, the problem is with names like this, it's hard to trust anything because they're in the news. So there's a ton of activity around it. There's going to be put buying, there's going to be call buying. You know what I mean? They were writing calls the other day, selling premium. So that's why I try to avoid getting involved. You know, remember some of you guys were asking me about the X, and I told you it's just not my cup of tea because it's in the news constantly. Positive tariff news, it'll get a bump. You know, negative news, it'll sell off. I like them quiet. You know, I like it where we don't know the catalyst and they're coming in aggressively. There's been a lack of that, though. So I get it, Mike. I don't blame you. Like I said, Facebook, in my opinion, if you were looking to start a position, you can use that order as confirmation as, all right, let me start looking for an entry here. Okay. Other than that, yeah, I'm not too excited about it. Brant saying, how long do corrections generally last? That's a good question, Brant. Throughout my career, the normal correction, okay, and this market has been anything but normal, but normally you would have a correction last about a quarter. So about 3.5 months. And then it regain its footing. You know, you would see flow start to firm up. Now, that's a correction. You know, how do we know this is not the start of a bull market? A bear market, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? We don't know. That's the trick. Usually, if they last longer than that quarter, you know, normally then it's something bigger than just a correction. But right now, with the evidence we have at hand, this is just a correction. And considering that we didn't have a correction all year last year after this move, guys, this is nothing. I hate to tell you, this is nothing. You know, you're coming off a monster move, you know, monster move, and a blow-off rally at the beginning of the year. So, you know, the one thing I will say, though, okay, people get, well, it's both sides, but they get bared up way too quickly, okay? And one thing I've learned throughout my career is that when people are all lathered up in protection, betting on further downside, and all leaning on one side, you don't see the market fall apart. You know, what you could see is these wide, crazy ranges, basically big, wide chop. That's what you could see. And that will wear out both sides. You know, that will wear out both sides. But if you're asking me, and let's say you're a swing trader, right? You're not comfortable on the short side, and you want to sit tight and wait, you know, for the market to set up again. I think that's the right move. You know, don't get caught up in how long this might last. You still got time left. You know what I mean? Give it a little bit longer and see where we are in another couple of weeks. But you know, for me, you know, the signals are going to be in flow most of all. Like, there is no leg higher. In other words, there's not a leg higher going to come out of this market without some real sweeper activity behind it. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. So for us, that's going to be the sign. Looking at all the sentiment indicators and all that stuff, that's great, as far as looking for entries on a trade and quick trades in the interim. But ultimately, for me and a lot of guys in the room, the flow is going to be the deciding factor. And you're not going to see crap like this and a lack of quality call buying if a whole new bull phase is coming out of this. Again, what I'm hoping for is that rotation into everything that got ignored while all these things went bonkers last year. Okay? Last year, there was a bull market, a rally, even into this year. There are stocks sitting on the floor, laying there dead right now. Dead. And, here's a couple names, okay? Here's why I thought they might rotate. You see names like this, Procter & Gamble. This is Procter & Gamble. You know what I mean? Usually there's a flight to safety in these things. No interest. No interest. I was talking about Dow, DuPont caught a little bit of action. All these things have been hammered already. So even if they take down these FANG, high beta tech names further, which can easily happen, it's only a matter of time, in my opinion, before they start to rotate into some of the other things out there. Again, that's just an opinion of mine based on what I've seen in the past. But the flow is going to be the ultimate sign of whether they do that or not. I thought yesterday maybe we have, a start. Now DuPont caught a little bit of flow. Carnival, CCL caught a little bit of flow. These names have been doing nothing for a while. But one day at a time, we'll see what happens. Venkata is asking about Home Depot, McDonald's. I haven't seen. Home Depot caught a tiny bit of buying, a little bit of flow. And McDonald's usually can catch some nice flow. I haven't seen a thing. Again, Venkata, this is my point. This is the point I'm making. Look at Home Depot. Can these things go lower? Of course they can, but there's going to be a point in time where they rotate into these things. Nothing goes straight down. There's going to be a decent rally, and hopefully there'll be some real flow when that time comes. And what I mean by real flow, Venkata, like we saw, I think the other day we saw a 700 lot buyer in Home Depot. Okay? And we were like, all right, Home Depot. That's a good name. That's what we're looking for here. Hopefully they'll come back for more. They never showed up again. They never showed up again. And that's the story with every name that we see action in. They never come back and add. And again, that's a sign of a lack of confidence. The win, by the way, win 2 I traded this morning, had a nice rip. I didn't even realize closed only up 73 cents. There was a weekly sweep right at the open. But the win, if you guys remember, in this consolidation, how many times did they hit the win? Right? How many times did they hit it? So, that's the kind of activity you want to see into pullbacks like we're seeing right now. We're not seeing it. We're not seeing it. But great questions. What other questions we got going on here? Jim is saying, could this be end of the quarter profit take? Yeah, without a doubt, Jim. I mean, listen, we got a short week. Friday, the casinos closed, if you guys aren't aware. Okay. And the end of the quarter stuff. Without a doubt. Without a doubt, Jim, it could be. And maybe that's why, they've held back from getting aggressive. We don't know the reasons, but, we take the information we got at hand, and it is what it is. Ari's talking about Grub. There was a put sweeper in Grub, right? See, these are the things, like we saw a couple names like this today, catch some put activity. And these are the type of things like, again, I don't trade the short side, but if I was, the type of stuff I would look for. a name like this that had a sick move has held up, and you finally see some put sweepers start to come into it. I know Lucci likes to look at that stuff too. Stuff that's been holding up. Bulls are holding on for dear life, and then finally cracks. So we started to see some signs there. Grub, Splunk. Remember Splunk, the animal? Splunk saw some put action. First Solar, that's been holding up well and caught some call activity, saw a little put action. So in a weak tape like today, they start to come after the strength, and for a day trade, that's where you get an opportunity. Utes and REITs. Yeah, we're seeing some REIT flow out there. We're seeing some utility flow out there. If that's your cup of tea, they're tough. They're tough. I mean, sometimes these names can move. I'll give you an example. This D was one of the few that had some buying, a little more buying today. Dominion. You got that set up there. Maybe this thing can hang around here a little bit more and they hit it again. You don't want to chase strength. So, yeah, if you like playing those, otherwise you just wait. We don't like to do it. You just wait for the action to come into the stuff that you trade, There's a lot of other sectors out there. Again, what are the staples, right? They're considered staples. Like, these things are exhausted to the downside. There should be some sort of rotation there. There's a ton of spots. There are a ton of spots out there. Again, we're seeing it in some of these things, ETP and stuff like that. This is what they're hitting over and over again. By the way, remember I just gave that example just now? This is what they're doing in this stupid MLP. So they could do it here, but they're not doing it anywhere else. Jay Paul is asking, when multiple sweeps come in and the positions are taken a month or two away, can we do weeklies and expect some movement in the direction of the sweep? Yeah, well, here's the thing, Jay. Okay, it depends what type of trader you are. I mean, that's what it comes down to. In my opinion, sweepers, the way you should look at them is as a momentum indicator. If you're an active trader, you should look at them as an indicator of momentum. So when you see multiple sweepers come into a name, and they're playing something a month or two out, if you're a day trader like I am, I'm going to day trade that name because I think it can create some momentum right now. So that's the way you got to look at it. And Jay, I know you're new to the room. Take it slow. You'll get a feel for this stuff. You know what I mean? See what the other traders are talking about when they see the action. A lot of the experienced traders are very vocal. They tell you how they're playing it, how they're looking at things. You got different styles of traders. So make sure you're taking into account that, if it fits your style. And take it slow, especially now in this market. You got to take it nice and easy. And trust me, it doesn't take too long to get a grasp on things. Let me scroll down here because I have a tendency of skipping over people's questions because I try to stay in chronological order here. Ari's saying the grub bet was a $500,000 sweep. Yeah, May 100th. So there you go. There you go. And you see Ari, like, you see the put action, like that's what the call activity looked like, right? You remember, like last year, that's what they were sweeping call side last year. Now it seems like all the quality is coming on the put side. And with a lack of buying, that's not a good sign. That's all. That's not a good sign currently. Tim is saying, you called it today when we bounced. It was squeeze action only. Yeah, Tim, I mean, listen, one thing I've learned, okay, throughout my career, and you see a lot on social media and just people getting excited off any call buying anyway. But one thing I learned is there's going to be flow on the call side and the put side no matter what. Okay. But there's a big difference between that cheap spec action and the real bets out there. You know what I mean? The real bets. When you got a green tape, you're going to see bull flow. You're going to see some sort of bull flow. But when you see the quality lacking, it tells you a lot. You know, it tells you a lot about how the smart money may be positioning. And the same thing like on the put side. You know what I mean? You're always going to see some put action out there on red days. You know, you see some heavy duty put action come into a flat tape. You know, you see enough of it and the buying's not there. That's where you put the pieces together. So, you know, this is all stuff. And Tim is saying that he's in the room, and trust me, he's got a grasp on the flow just like anybody else. But this is the stuff you will pick up on as you see enough of this stuff, you know, as you see enough of it. But initially, that's my job to shout it out, you know, my interpretation of the flow as I see it. What else? Did I miss anybody here as far as any questions, names, strategy, anything like that? So what I think game plan wise, guys, all right, game plan, again, you guys, I'm sure, look at a variety of things. I know a lot of people on the technical side are looking for that retest per se. Maybe even a break could be a good thing, you know, get people really bared up. I think right now you're looking to be nimble. Based on what we're seeing right now, here's the game plan in my eyes, the playbook. You're looking to find an entry on the long side when sentiment and some flow align. Okay, so let's say you see some flow coming into a name you like, and all of a sudden, you know, you get that whoosh, and you got to put the call just like we had here, just like we had into that Friday low. Okay, that's where you're looking for that quick snapback trade type thing. All right, anything more than that, for what I look at, we need to see the action improve. We need to see the call activity improve. Until we see that, you're looking to be nimble and be patient. That's the best advice I can give you from what I'm seeing right now. You know, again, we see missiles come in tomorrow into weakness. I could be singing a different tune tomorrow. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I'm not looking to flip-flop, but that's a big change in my eyes. Okay, that's a big change. But, you know, as of now, I take, again, like I said, the evidence that I have at hand in front of me. Right now, it's tough to get excited. Tough to get excited about much. And be careful on the short side as well at the same token. In other words, do not short in the hole when you have bearish extreme out there, because there's a high probability of a squeeze coming. And that's where shorts get devoured, you know? So if you're looking to swing shorts, which is a difficult thing to do right now, you wait for these things to come in on the sentiment side. And, you know, that's where you're looking for entries. If you're not looking at that stuff, you shouldn't be playing the short side, in my opinion. Honestly, that's my opinion. You could think I'm, you know, out of my bird for saying that. But if you're not paying attention to this stuff and you're playing the short side, you need your head examined. It's no coincidence that we squeezed Monday like we did. What changed between Friday, Monday, and today? Did anything change? Did I miss something? The only thing that changed is everybody was leaning on the put side going into the weekend. You know, we were hoping for a down open Monday because that would have been a perfect setup, especially as day traders. And the bastards gapped it up, and gapped it up huge, nevertheless. You know, so, but that's what we're looking for. Anybody have any questions before we wrap it up? Jay saying, I saw on another website a huge order of QQQ puts at 130 and QQQ dumped after that. Did we see sweeps on the site? Jay, like I mentioned, if you look around hard enough, you're going to see people post activity all over the yard, all over the place. Okay, like I said, they're especially in the ETFs. this call and put buying all day, every day. 99% of that I ignore. Even some of the stuff we see, a lot of the stuff we see in the room, I tend to ignore. I'm only looking for that aggressive nature. You know what I mean? That pattern of buying. Okay, because we never know the true intent behind any of these orders. See all these orders here? We have no idea the machine or the player placing that order, what the hell he's doing. Okay, but we have better odds of being on the same side of that player if they come in and sweep XYZ, not just once, but 2, 3, 4 times. Okay, we have a better idea that the momentum is to the downside on an intraday basis if we see a multiple, a flurry of put sweepers come in rather than just one block put buyer. Because you're going to see that stuff every day. Trust me, every day. So that's what we're focusing on. We're looking for more of patterns, you know what I mean, of aggressive buying rather than anything else. All right, guys. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Guys, if you have any questions about anything I'm talking about, if you're new, you could go to wallstreetjesus.com. All right. And there's a strategy section there. Very quick, short blogs. You guys can breeze through them all in a day and get a better idea of what the hell we're looking at. Jay, even members out there, you can brush up on some of this stuff and it quickens the learning curve. From the simple things to what's a sweep, why it's important, how to use this information for different trading styles, all that jazz. All right. So you could get that strategy tab here on the wallstreetjesus.com site. All right. And if you have an interest in checking the Steam Room out, we have a 3-day pass, free trial, no credit card required. You don't have to put a credit card down. You're not interested after 3 days. We part as friends, no harm done. Okay, no credit card required, no requirement. You get basically everything but the private Twitter, and you cannot post in the room. Okay, but everything else, you get the flow, audio, video throughout the day, access to all the traders in the room, etc. All right, and if you're interested after that, this is the premium package here. We also have just private Twitter. If you're interested in just that, private Twitter is included in the premium package. But if you're interested in just private Twitter, it's $59.99 a month. You could get that on the products tab here. All right, guys. Yeah, you get private Twitter. If you signed up for the premium deal, you'll get private Twitter. Check your email. You should get an email there. All right, guys. You know where to find me if you have anything to mention or questions or anything. All right. Be careful out there. Stay patient. Wait for things to line up. Hopefully we get a little more weakness tomorrow. We get sentiment line up. And like I said, any given day, these guys could come in swinging. That's what I'm holding out hope for. We'll see what happens. Thanks for stopping, guys. Bye, guys. Have a good evening.